Show.
Notre Dame!
That's right. Welcome in. Welcome back, everybody. It is the week we've all been waiting for. And it's a special week indeed, one we've been looking for years, looking forward to. And we're going to do a guest interview edition of the Always Irish Show. As always, thank you for being here. You can find the program on YouTube. Do it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps old Johnny Boy out as well. Notifications on that way you alerted every time a new episode drops. I know you don't want to miss it. Twitter, search bar Always Irish Rat. Always Irish Inc. Emails alwaysirishandy@gmail.com. Audio only. Anywhere you want it, you can get it in your ear hole. Call-in line 312-900-8815. You tell Johnny all you've heard and seen. The phone lines are popping this week, ladies and gentlemen. Instagram, Facebook, Always Irish Inc. USA Today, Fighting Irish Wire. We have articles out the wazoo this week. Be there or be square. So welcome in, welcome back, everybody. As you know, it's a big week for college football and for Notre Dame and Ohio State fans specifically. That being said, we're going to bring in our guest. It is none other than the hardest working man in YouTube college football. It is the voice of college football, Mr. Mark Rogers. Welcome to the program, sir.
John, I think I got all that. Man, you got a lot of stuff going there.
I know, and the list keeps adding. I'm gonna have to cut some stuff off and make it a little shorter. Mark, thank you for being here. You know, this is one of the weeks that when you do what we do year round, you sit there in the dog days of summer and you're just like, get us to the season, get us to these moments. The season starts, you blink, and it's week 5, and we have all these big matchups in Notre Dame, Ohio State. How does it feel to be back in the mix here?
You didn't circle the calendar for Central Michigan, you're telling me that?
I did for the Always Irish tailgate, but that's a different reason, okay?
I saw some pics. Very nice.
Listen, Mark, that was a game. This is a war. These are different weeks. I would not be in the mood to be out there smiling and laughing all morning this week. It had to be last week.
The brands involved in this one are just at the top of the sport, the top of sports. This gets the juices pumping. I know that these are very proud fan bases, very old line fan bases, going back to the traditions, the roots of college football, and of course, Notre Dame even more so. They don't get together very often. The Fiesta Bowl's brought them together twice. Otherwise, this home and home doesn't happen very often and should probably happen a little bit more. And if you listen to me, maybe Notre Dame, wink, wink, should join a conference, and maybe that conference should be wink, wink, the Big Ten. But this is fun, and it should be a good game. And I think for the first time, at least in the recent past, this to me is a toss-up game.
Yeah, and Mark, maybe that's a really good place to start. You know, when I was looking at this setup of the buildup of both Notre Dame and Ohio State, what they had leading into this game, for both teams, all these first few weeks, I'm going, both of you just get there undefeated. Because if either one of these teams would have slipped up anywhere, this would not have the vibe it has and wouldn't be what it's going to be. You wouldn't have game day. You wouldn't have all this stuff. I love the fact that for this night, these Midwestern, old school brand name powers have the lights of college football. It makes me really happy, man. You can't find a better environment. This is going to be absolutely outrageous. I would argue the biggest buildup for Notre Dame home game since my Bush push misery all the way back in 2005. Even 2012 when Notre Dame was undefeated, nothing had this kind of buildup. This is going to be great, and it's just having two Northern Midwestern powers, like having the stage is beautiful, man. I love it.
You know, for everything that has changed in college football that drives us crazy, especially during the offseason with the realignment and with the NIL and with the transfer portal and all of that business, when you see two traditional uniforms on the same field at the same time in an epic, historic, legendary stadium, then it just kind of takes you back and you forget all the nonsense and you just get down to, hey, these are two traditional powers meeting, and it could be 2005 all over again. It could be 1995. It could be 1950. Just for these 3 or 3.5 hours, forget all the other crap it's Ohio State, it's Notre Dame, and it's epic.
Yeah, it really looking forward to it. All right. So a part of the reason, I could talk to a lot of different people about this game and everybody has an opinion, but a part of the reason I wanted to bring you on is for what we do, you are uniquely positioned because, I'm so Notre Dame focused and I got my hands full just focusing on us and doing that content every day. You are all across the nation and you are tied into all the people like me that cover all these different teams, all these different conferences. You have a better zoomed out scope of kind of the whole landscape. I'm genuinely interested to know from you, what is the vibe around Notre Dame this year and entering this game? I do not feel like Notre Dame's getting any national attention, really. And I don't mind that entering this game, to be honest. But how are you sensing the feeling around Notre Dame entering this game? Is it little old Notre Dame, big game mess up coming? Or is it they got Hartman, they look better, this is going to be a game? What are you sensing that feeling is?
Well, I think that most people out there that are not attached to either team, that are kind of unbiased and just want to say, hey, let's watch a great game.
There's people unbiased against Notre Dame. I thought everybody either loved us or hated us. I don't know that many people were like, oh, I don't know about Notre Dame.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult. I think we've got two of the most hated programs also in the country right here, for different reasons. But I think they're very close to the top of the list. They might be 1-2 or 2-1. But, I think that there is a large sentiment out there that it's like, prove it to me. I'm not going to believe it until you prove it to me. I know Sam Hartman's really good. I know that he's the best quarterback since fill in the blank, Jimmy Clausen, Brady Quinn.
Yeah.
Maybe
you got to go back that far.
I'm going to go with Brady Quinn myself.
I would too.
But prove it to me. I got to see it. And we know Ohio State's kind of stumbled around and bumbled around and got themselves together apparently last weekend. But I think there's a large sentiment of college football fans out there that say, prove it to me right now.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely fair. And what I've been saying is when you look at Notre Dame's big game record and all those failures and all that, and you were a running meme across the sport, don't even mention the bowl games. That's even worse. That is all fair and that is all factual. I think what's giving Notre Dame fans more juice going into this one is we have not had a quarterback this capable going into a big game like this, literally since Brady Quinn, that you trust. He's seen it all. He's not going to panic, can get the ball where it needs to go. Is Notre Dame a perfect roster? Do they have the star talent Ohio State does all over and overall? No, they do not. However, for the first time in like 2 decades, Notre Dame fans feel like they're entering with the ability to have an offense that can compete in one of these games. We have not seen that. That is the part of this that's new, that's giving Notre Dame fans some renewed hope here. And it's not a 5-star roster all over, but there are more guys that can hurt you this year on Notre Dame. It's not just the tight end, and if you don't have him, then we can't do anything. So Notre Dame fans are feeling that optimism. However, even the Notre Dame fans should have a feeling of prove it. Even though I feel better about the chances moving the ball in a big game like this, if Notre Dame fans should be saying prove it too, because until you win one of these on the big stage, you are that record. So I think that's totally fair. Now, I expect this game to be kind of close. I would be surprised if either team totally blew out the other. But Mark, that makes me want to play this clip and have you react to it.
There's just this belief that this roster of players that nobody has ever heard of is going to shock the world. But again, as we've seen year in, year out, Notre Dame is vastly overrated by about everybody going into the season. And maybe they don't stub their toe yearly against Marshall, but they're going to let you down. They're absolutely going to let you down. And there's just not enough free bets on all of these apps for me to load up as much on Ohio State as I want to right now. Ohio State is going to curb stomp Notre Dame in this game. You can clip this, you can submit it to Freezing Cold Takes. I don't give a shit. I really don't. I mean, it is going to be awful if you're a Notre Dame fan. It is going to be awful. streams of green are going to be lining up to exit the stadium in the third quarter.
Where'd you find this Noon guy? What is that? Where's that coming from, Mark? I thought that was a clip for entering last year's game. That is a little wild, is it not? I didn't see the rest of it. How did you respond to Mr. Noon there?
Well, let's understand that we've got two other guys on that show as well. So it's me and it's three guys, Kevin, Tony Gerdeman, Steve Hellwagon. They're all Ohio State beat writers, have been covering the team forever. And are they biased? Of course they're biased. We had this conversation yesterday with John on my show. Everybody's biased. So they cover Ohio State. They're professionals, but they're Ohio State fans. So they're biased. And of course, just much like what you stated yesterday, you know a hell of a whole lot more about Notre Dame than you do Ohio State. And you could flip it and say the same thing about them. So don't necessarily like to speak for anybody else because,
but you got to realize that clip's making the rounds all over Notre Dame media right now. Like that clip is everywhere. Everybody's reacting to that clip. It's making the rounds in Notre Dame circles.
So I have to admit that seeing that again, I don't know where that came from. I know where it came from, but I don't know how long ago that was because, of course, this being the game that it is, it's been brought up a number of times the entire offseason. And I know at one point in the offseason, Kevin went off. There it is. That was before any games were played. I know that.
Yeah. See, I didn't know the timing. And I even had people say maybe that was from last year where I think that opinion actually I may have agreed with because it was a totally different set of circumstances. That's bold. And I get it. Listen, I get it, man. Notre Dame has not proven it. I just would be shocked if this game was a runaway either way. I just feel that way. And maybe I'll be proven wrong and Sam Hartman doesn't make a big difference and Notre Dame looks the same. I don't know. But that was wild. But Mark, you get the Notre Dame people riled up. Every time you say something, I get a bunch of messages going, Mark, did you say that Notre Dame would be the Iowa if they joined the Big Ten, would be like Iowa? Because that's one that I've had people ask. Yeah, they said that you were saying if Notre Dame was in the Big Ten, they'd be another Iowa.
So this
and
is,
you got all the Notre Dame people mad, Mark.
This is the issue, John. People that I have on my show make statements that get attributed to me.
You.
I did not make that statement about Iowa. We've got an Iowa guy. He may have made the statement. I'm not even going to say that he made the statement because I don't know.
Yeah.
But all you have to do is look at all my content and my evaluation of Notre Dame football and put it all together. If you take it as a whole, then you realize that I am not equating Notre Dame to Iowa.
Yeah. You catch some strays because you're there on a lot of this crossfire, I think, and then it comes back on you. But I said, I told somebody you were coming on, they go, you got to ask about that Iowa thing I've heard. It's been bugging me forever. I said, all right, I'll ask them. All right. So those are a little wild. And I just don't see a blowout that way. I think Notre Dame's built to better compete this year. The actual game, Mark, if Notre Dame was to pull this off, what do you think that might look like? Like either what Notre Dame's doing right or where Ohio State isn't. If Notre Dame pulls this off, everybody wearing green in Notre Dame Stadium and the four horsemen emerge and ride again. What does that look like to you if Notre Dame pulls that off?
And by the way, John, if anybody comes to you with any of this, all they have to do is clip it off. If they clip it off and they can prove it and they can show it, I will answer to it. There we go.
There you go. Hey, I wanted to give you I didn't want to set you up here, but I needed to give you a chance to address the Notre Dame people yourself with that allegation because I've had a bunch of people ask me about it.
Most of my derogatory comments about Notre Dame are not initiated by me. They are initiated by comments made to me that I am a stickler for facts and accuracy.
Yeah.
And so or logic. So when people throw me crap,
imagine that you're crazy. That logic stuff,
not accurate.
Yeah.
I had as a side note, and this was on our Notre Dame post-game show or weekly show, but I was not part of it. I just jumped in the chat to check on these guys, and someone made the comment, Texas is always ranked in the preseason top 10. Well, what do you think I did? One time in the last 12 years has Texas been ranked in the preseason top 10. There you go. That's wrong. I don't want that on here because it's incorrect.
Yeah.
The talking point that we hit on yesterday, John, that I never thought about until we had a great conversation with Nathan, of course, yesterday, was that no quarterbacks like pressure. They all can function against pressure to a certain extent. It affects them all. Although I think with some quarterbacks, it affects them between the ears that carries through the entire game. So they could be getting pressure in the first quarter, and that's going to wreck them mentally through the rest of the game. Even if their offensive line cleans up some issues and starts to protect them better, that they're on edge then. Where some quarterbacks have been through it. And sure, they're going to be affected by the play that they got pressure, but the next play, they got a clean pocket or just a little bit of pressure, then they can make the adjustment. And I'm just making a logical conclusion here that I believe a fairly large advantage here for Notre Dame is that Sam Hartman has 40 or 45 career starts, some crazy number.
Yeah.
Might be more than that. And I can't imagine that he's going to be fazed by anything. Kyle McCord has never played in a hostile stadium. Shout out to our friends there at IU, Bloomington Hoosiers, with half the stadium of Ohio State fans. So he's never played in front of a hostile crowd in this type of game and not had to deliver. And the other thing we talked about is that I think it would play into Notre Dame's hands if this is a one-score game in the fourth quarter, but it's been a slugfest grinded out where McCord has had a bad day, but maybe the defenses have ruled the day. And so McCord has the pressure of winning the game, but he's not done anything the whole day to have that confidence that he can do it versus it's 45-42. It's just a free for all. Sure, Ohio State's down 3 with 2 minutes left, but McCord's been slinging it all over the yard, having success. And he's like, okay, one more time, we'll drive it right down the field and score. I think that's a big factor. And I think that, man, if Ohio State can run the ball against this Notre Dame front, I'm going to be slightly surprised. I think Notre Dame has an advantage there.
Yeah, it is. The calculation I've been making is I acknowledge openly, factually, as you've mentioned, the star power and the overall roster Ohio State has. There is no doubt that there is more raw star power, talent, athleticism on that Ohio State roster. However, at the most important position in the sport, the most important individual position in all sports, I agree with you that I think for once in one of these matchups, Notre Dame has an advantage. How much does that balance out? Like the overall, star power of Ohio State, but the quarterback kind of outweighs that. How much does that balance it out? I don't know. And then you hit on my other big point, which was for Notre Dame to have any chance to win this game, they have got to be good against the run. If you let them get going with the run game, Notre Dame is dead. You're just dead because that'll loosen it up for McCord and them guys will be loose back there. Notre Dame's got to do a good job in the run game, especially on early downs. Last year in this game, Ohio State had 17 first down runs and 16 of them were considered successful. So of a few yards or more. You can't do that. You're definitely dead doing that against their quarterback last year, but you don't want to do that again. You set up, you just let them do whatever they want then on second and third down. So Notre Dame's got to be good on those early downs as on the run and force McCord to have to be back there and make these passes and get some pressure. So that's a big, big deal to me. Also, I am not sold on Notre Dame's offensive line yet. We putting up a lot of points against who we are. I need to see them protect and create running holes against a roster like this for me to jump in and fully believe. That has always been a problem in these big games. Notre Dame, O-line you. We play the best couple teams on the schedule, run it for 48 yards, and I get O-line you all the time. It's enough to make my hair fall out. So those are a couple of the things I'm looking for. So if Notre Dame gets it done, Hartman makes an obvious difference. They hold up against the run, and Notre Dame's O-line does enough to be able to move the ball with more consistency they've had in these bigger games lately. Notre Dame's secondary, Mark, is the best one we've had in like 20 years. Literally. It's always a problem for us. We usually have one guy, Julian Love, out there or Kyle Hamilton, but I need 2 or 3 of each to feel good. This is legitimately the best secondary we've had in a long time, and Notre Dame fans feel confident they'll be able to do a decent job holding up on the back end. But you got to get some pressure. Nobody can guard for 7 seconds back there. So Those are kind of the keys to me. And then, of course, who's going to make a big play, Mark? You're going to get a tip ball pick six or a special teams play. Who's going to make a momentum changing play early? That's kind of what I'm looking for. So they're boring keys, to be good up front. It's the oldest key in the world, but it still applies to every game, Mark. Am I lame for saying that? It applies still to this day. 100 years past Rockney, and it still applies. Win up front, win the damn game.
Well, that's what it is. That's what it is. It's still a physical game. It's not as physical, nor is it one at the line of scrimmage to the nth degree like it was if we were sitting here 50 years ago talking about it and they were really playing in a phone booth. So there's a lot of speed and space, and get the quarterback to release the ball quickly to negate the pass rush and eliminate issues that the team may have along the offensive line. So it's been mitigated to an extent, but the team that controls the line of scrimmage is the better team in the trenches, is going to win 80 or 90% of the time. I don't think there's any question about that. We haven't seen Ohio State in this stadium since 1996. Don't want to remind your folks about that game, but I don't know how well
12-year-old me wasn't happy that afternoon, Mark. I wasn't very happy about that at 12.
I felt a little bit better than you. But looking at the home field advantage and Notre Dame's failures in these big games, but I think when they have played better and been close, it's obviously been at home. It's been against Clemson, albeit no Trevor Lawrence. It's been Georgia.
And no fans either. No fans either on that one against.
That's right.
We didn't have nothing going on, man. It was crickets in there for that one. Let me ask you this, Mark. Do you expect Ryan Day to try and establish the run to make this easier on his quarterback and ease him into this and see what they could do there? Or do you think that he's going to go, I got all these brand name weapons on the back end, and I am going to let my guy air it out, and we're going to see what we could do? What do you think his approach is going to be? I've been really racking my brain trying to think about that.
It is his nature, and I think it's the nature of most guys that favor offense, that grew up as offensive guys, that are gurus, that have reached that status in that place because of their offenses. It's hard for them to call just a mundane, regular dive right play because, hey, I was in the lab all week figuring out all this fancy stuff that I can do with all these gadgets and trickery and all this speed and space type of guys that I have. So they default that direct. That's what he loves to do. But I also think that he realizes the situation with his quarterback. So the first 2 weeks they played ultra conservative. They were still trying to figure out who the starter was. I think they really knew who it was. And then last week they kind of cut loose and let him sling it around, throw deep. I think they were figuring out right there and letting him actually throw some of those kind of balls in a game against competition to get ready for this. But if you're going to compare it to a CJ Stroud-led Ohio State offense, Ryan Day is not going to change who he is, and he knows that they have to be multiple and they have to be explosive in the passing game to win this game and efficient in the passing game. But he's going to lean a little bit more run and at least see if it works and hope that it works. And if it sets up all those 3rd and 2s that you're talking about that are dynamite or a kryptonite to Notre Dame, then that's going to be great for him. Then he's got the playbook open, but he's going to try to protect his quarterback to an extent, but not baby him because, hey, this is big boy football and he's got to be ready to go.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is a little bigger picture, but I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on Marcus Freeman and his development at Notre Dame. Rocky first year, Mark, in every way possible. The roster was a nightmare. Quarterback went down game 2. Like, that's a worst case scenario. The offseason, the winter did not go smooth. There was an OC hiring situation that the administration had some behind the scenes issues with that caused some issues. Rough first year, and now it seems like Freeman's significantly more comfortable. He has adjusted his mentality and his messaging. Notre Dame fans feel like this staff is doing a very good job. They seem to be a cohesive unit and pretty organized. What are your takeaways of what you've seen from Marcus? Notre Dame fans like it, man. got the recruit yesterday, another quarterback, a big arm quarterback. Always an issue with Reese and Kelly at Notre Dame, the quarterback. They never figured it out. So Notre Dame fans, I think, are on board and feeling like this is trending in a good direction with the roster. What are your thoughts on Freeman?
Well, through 17 games, as we get midway through the second season, I got to say that this is something similar to what I envisioned. And I don't know if they had this intent in mind, but I thought that they were hiring for the future, that they may have understood if we hire Marcus Freeman, that we may lose a game or two this year, maybe even next year, that we otherwise would not have lost if we went with a safe choice, a guy that's been around forever. Pat Narduzzi.
Yeah.
Just throwing out a name. Guy's been around forever. He's going to run a capable program. He knows exactly what he wants to do as a head coach. They just had that guy in Brian Kelly. You know, what he is doing is probably exactly as it was 10 years ago because he knows how to run a practice. He knows how to do everything. And this is the way he does it. But they hired for the future. They hired for relationships in a new world of not only recruiting, which is ultra important, but also the transfer portal and being able to, court and wine and dine recruits and transfer portal players. A guy that's very relational, very hip, very cool, can relate to the players. They relate to him.
And Mark, we don't get that at old dusty Notre Dame a lot. Like that, you got to realize when you say those things, Notre Dame is different, man. It is cobwebs a lot of time, like the old school, like it is. And you felt it get stale under Kelly, Mark, even though he did a lot of good things. The vibe just got stale and you could feel it. Kelly felt it. We felt it. The players. You mentioned relationships, Mark. That is a big deal everywhere. It's a bigger deal at Notre Dame. It is a big deal. How you treat people and the perception of how you operate at Notre Dame when you're that guy, that carries a lot of weight. It is probably the biggest difference in all this is those relationships between the players, the fans, the administration, how he recruits. The relationship thing at Notre Dame, that vibe matters more here than a lot of places just because of all the unique Notre Dame-ness, that extra board you got to go talk to get things done. Like it matters more. And this guy has all of those little personality things that were missing before. And I love it, man. I was on this guy when he was there a month as the DC going on my show saying the hell with it, make him the next head coach. He's already recruiting harder than Kelly ever did. And he's only been on campus 3 weeks. Right then I did a show saying make him the coach. He's doing the work. So far, so good, man. Rough first year, but I love what he's doing. He's changing that roster fast.
Absolutely. And it's impressive to see. And again, the bumps in the road may still be a few more ahead.
This roster's nowhere near complete, but you can see it moving. You can see it trending.
But we certainly saw it last year. And you guys have taken your fair shots of Marshall and Stanford in your face. But that came along with what he was hiring. It almost reminds me of the hiring process where I used to work, where at a certain point in that I determined, at least for myself, and started to recommend other people, look at the successful people that are being hired right out of college or maybe one job removed that have all these bright ideas. They're really sharp. They can learn quickly. They're just on the go versus the 25-year veteran that checks all the boxes and may be ready to go a little bit sooner and more competent in the job, but long term, take that young individual. Yeah.
And so it's refreshing, man. The whole vibe at Notre Dame's different now, and it's nice to see. Let's take this a little bigger picture, Mark. Got a couple more minutes with you. I don't want to take up all your time. What surprised you so far in college football nationally? Anything really kind of open your eyes or surprise you weren't expecting to see a month in?
Yeah, so I'm trying to multitask here a little bit. I got all sorts of people driving me crazy. So what has surprised me? I think that when we get close calls like Florida State, Boston College, and we get a lot of those things that people just think that, hey, we've broken through and the elite's not the elite anymore, and we're going to see all this craziness. I don't necessarily, and this is where I go back to being accurate and factual and so forth. I don't know that. I'm not so sure because I've added up the group of five versus the power five and what that balance typically looks like in terms of it being 85 to 90% wins on the power five side. And that hasn't changed. I do hope that there's new blood in the college football playoff or in the weeks leading up to conference championship play, that there are different teams out there that, whether it's North Carolina, Penn State, other teams like that, even Texas, for as much
Yeah.
as they're a blue blood, but that they come back and do something. And not that I'm rooting for any of those teams, but I do want to see some fresh faces. And we got a little bit of that last year with TCU before they got pasted. That's my hope. And that's what I think has been a byproduct, particularly of the transfer portal, to a certain extent, is helping some teams that have some really bright coaches that can figure some things out and get their teams to catch up quicker.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And you know what? I think that may be a part of the Prime and the Colorado, what a big deal that's been. It's new, Mark. It's something exciting that's kind of new. And it's fun to see something new and exciting like that with an outgoing personality that's a lightning bolt for and against. That's just been an interesting new storyline, having something like exciting that you're not used to, and game day and all that. So I agree with you. A little just kind of a different look early this year. What are your thoughts on Alabama? It's very, very interesting to us because you have Tommy Rees and Buckner there. And we were all told Notre Dame's the problem. All these guys got to do is get out of there, and they're just going to be instant stars at Alabama. What are your thoughts on that? Is everybody overreacting to this whole Alabama? We're just not used to them looking vulnerable to this level at all. What's the reality there?
The reality's usually and is right now somewhere in between. So the overreaction that
you're too damn practical, Mark. You know, you're so level-headed.
It
drives me nuts, man. You're so level-headed, damn it.
I say this all the time to folks. I say, some of my takes are really boring, but that's what it is. If that's what it is, that's what it is. And sometimes I come off as the contrarian because I'm not trying to clickbait or I'm not trying to upset anybody, but that's what it is. So that's where I cut it. And with Alabama, Nick Saban is still one of the very best coaches in college football. They are still loaded on their roster, but sometimes you can have a particular team where it's not quite, just doesn't work for some reason, or it takes a while to work to get there. This team's only one season removed, and I'm not saying this particular team because the personnel changes so quickly, but this program is only one season removed from being in the final 4 minutes against Georgia to win a national championship, and then lost on the final two plays last year of two games to get to a college football playoff. And if they win one, they're one play away from a college football playoff last year. So their issue this year is that, and I don't think it's a big surprise to people that have been paying attention, they hired two coordinators that I didn't openly criticize, but I questioned to say, what has Tommy Rees proven? What has he proven? Yeah. Well, maybe if Saban, number one, wants to have a guy that he can have under his thumb more than a guy that's going to be like, I want to run the offense and I'm doing it my way, and wants to just do the crossing the T's and dotting the I's kind of offensive coordinator, but you're going to run my offense, but you're going to do it this way. Okay, now you can call the plays because you know exactly the way I want them called.
Yeah.
And we're going to win on, because we don't have the quarterback, we're going to win on running the football and defense. And so this is a good fit, and he's a young guy, and I'll bring him along and we'll see how he goes from here. Maybe we'll set him up for his next job, or maybe he'll be here as off OC for 10 years and he'll be an excellent one in a few years. Defensive coordinator, he went really safe, but in a bad way, with Kevin Steele, who is 65 years old and has worked for Saban 3 times. And I just think he went super ultra safe, but there's a little wrong with the defense. So it's all offensive coordinator and quarterback. I said this in the offseason. So it's surprising me how bad it is at quarterback, but it's not surprising me that it's the worst quarterback play in the Saban era, because I said that all offseason. I said, we are looking at 3 quarterbacks that, unless somebody remarkably improves this offseason, and that happens in college football, but most likely we're going to see the worst quarterback play in the Saban era, but we're getting it to like the nth degree.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just really interesting. The intrigue Notre Dame fans have with the SEC now, with Kelly at LSU and at Alabama, it really is interesting to us just to see these dynamics with all of the guys we're used to. It's very interesting. As we wrap up, I got one more question for you. And again, it's a little bigger picture. What do you, aside from the fact that it's going to benefit the people like me and you that do this on YouTube, take that business part of it out? How do you feel about the 12-team format we're moving to next year? Does it devalue the regular season? And if your answer is clearly yes, because each game will mean less, is it going to be worth it on the back end for all the entertainment we get in that month with all those big games?
Oh boy, 12-team playoff. Here we go, because I could go on for hours about this. First reason it works is because it affords every conference champion a spot. So I don't care how bad the
Well,
conference
wait,
is.
are they still going to do that now that the Pac-12's melted? Are they
Well,
going to have to redo that? What are you going to do there?
Well, you're only going to have 4 spots. You're only going to have 4 automatic spots out of the Power 5, and then the best of the group of 5.
Yeah.
So no issues there, because I have had an issue with the playoff, because if we go back 11 years to when the playoff started, or it was announced and the BCS transition to the playoff, when people asked me, is this a good playoff? I said, yes, because it affords 2 other teams that have the resume to compete for a national championship, affords them the opportunity. But it's not a good playoff because you got 4 spots and you got 5 conferences. So nobody can do math.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. And I can't cry tears for the 13th team left out like I can number 5 sometimes.
No,
like if you're 13, that means you're losing 2 or 3 games, right? I can't cry for you then. No, there's some number 5s that I felt bad for before, not even including Notre Dame.
Yes.
But it doesn't give all the control to that committee that screws somebody who really does deserve it. There's a bigger net for margin of error there on entry.
And also, don't feel bad for number 13 for this reason. During the 14 playoff, I ask people this all the time, and they think they've got an answer. What is the criteria of making the playoff? What can a team do to guarantee that they will make the playoff? And you know what the answer is? Nothing. They can't do anything to guarantee a playoff spot. People's automatic answer is win every game. No, if all 5 conference champions win every game, somebody's going to get left out. You cannot do anything to guarantee a playoff spot. That's a
very
stupid
good point.
System.
Very good point.
So we transitioned to this 12 teams. And so, and for that 13th team you're talking about, not just from a rankings and record standpoint, can you not cry about being 13? Okay. But also from a conference standpoint, and I know I'm talking to the wrong audience about conference. You're probably like, conference, what is that word?
What are those?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
But if you're in a conference, well, you've got nothing to bellyache about, because you had an opportunity to win your conference and you didn't do it. So you did have that pathway. So yeah, the 12 teams, though, I can prove this. I've done it a zillion times, taken people through models and through the years to show this. Nobody can prove to me that they can justifiably determine buys. You are shifting the committee's responsibility and their power from just the pure selection of the 4 teams and then who gets left out, to the buys and who receives the buys. Now with the 4, now that could change, because now you just you're a conference champion, you get the buy. But if people realized who would have received buys last year, there were like some 3 lost teams like Utah and Clemson that would have received buys last year. So I'm not a big fan of buys. Any system, 6-team, 12-team, that's not on that 4, 8, 16 where you have buys, because I don't validate or trust the process of selecting buys. This is not the NFL where you can say, okay, the Kansas City Chiefs went 11-6 and won their division, but the Pittsburgh Steelers went 14-3 and won their division. They get the bye because they played very like schedules. They probably played each other. They justified it. They earned it. We're comparing teams that have nothing to do with one another, have nothing close to a connection, and we just have people in a room saying, you get the bye, you get the bye, you get the bye. And so and to receive a buy, I've gone through, believe me, the conversations with people to outline why the buy is so significant. think of it this way. And Notre Dame could be in this position because they may not ever get a bye if they don't join a conference.
Yep. That's what we're looking at.
Let's say Ohio State or Notre Dame's got to play a first round game against Wisconsin, and they got to go to Wisconsin. They've got to go to Wisconsin and play a first round game. And the winner's going to play Ohio State. Okay. Not only does Notre Dame have the obvious risk of losing the game. So there's the one disadvantage of not having a bye. Is
you can't lose if you're not playing.
Yes. But number two is what's going on that entire time. Well, you can get guys knocked out for the rest of the season.
Yep.
You can get guys just flat out worn out, nicked up, all those things. They can still play, but they're no longer 90%. They're 70%. And they just had to go through this brutal game. And then on top of that, John, what do those two teams have to do, Wisconsin and Notre Dame? They have to be laser focused on each other for all that preparation. They can't look past teams and say, well, we'll get by Wisconsin. We're going to go play Ohio State. No, they got to be laser focused. Meanwhile, Ohio State gets to sit there, fold their arms, and watch that game. That's the best scouting report possible. They get to watch the two teams play.
And you're getting healthy. They're getting their dinged up guys healthier.
Yes. And get to prepare for both and just split their staff and say, you prepare for Wisconsin, you prepare for Notre Dame for 3 weeks, and we'll watch game tape on. Plus, we get to see them play. That's a huge advantage. All of that put together.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And the other thing that I think is going to come into play when you add this essentially another month to the season for these teams is teams with high quality depth are going to emerge, because that is going to be a war of attrition when you get into the top 10, 12 teams beating the heck out of each other back to back to back. The teams that have some depth are going to, I think, be in a better position there, because it's going to be a war of attrition. I think Notre Dame fans are making themselves feel better about the no bye thing by saying, all right, we're not going to get a bye, but at least we can still be independent and be in the tournament. And then Notre Dame fans do like the concept of, if you're going to not get the bye, at least get that first home game at Notre Dame in December in the freezing cold. Like if we're a high seed but not eligible for the bye, Notre Dame fans do like that. If you're going to get a consolation prize the week of Christmas in South Bend hosting a game, bring me some warm weather boys up. They're not going to like it, Mark. They are not going to like it at all. And I'm going to love it.
I do love the on-campus games for the first round. That's going to bring a different feel to it. That's going to be exceptional.
Yes, that is going to be super unique. So it's going to be a really interesting experiment. Everybody complaining about it, Mark. They're going to watch every game anyway. So get your complaints out, but we're all going to watch every minute of all those games anyways. Mark, I really appreciate your time. I know it's a busy week for you. Mark Rogers TV, the hardest working man in college football. Tell the folks where they can find all your work, Mark.
And to clarify one thing, I'll make this extremely clear for everyone. Notre Dame, and I would have said this at any point in the last zillion years, Notre Dame is clearly I'm not talking historically, they're a top, maybe the greatest program in the history of college football, but talking modern day, recent college football. Notre Dame fans, believe me, you are a top 10 program in this country, and Iowa is more in the 25 to 30 range. Okay, do we got that straight?
I love it. There you
Excellent.
go, Mark.
Okay.
There we go. Now, I see this is beautiful, Mark. I don't want my people to get the wrong impression of the famous Mark. I clear the air up. I like this, man. And you can't be responsible for everything said by all your guests. You have a lot of them. That's beautiful. Everybody go subscribe to Mark. I mean it when I say there's nobody that works harder doing this kind of stuff than Mark. All different conferences, all the different teams, every bit breaking news, all of it. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Mark, this is going to be an exciting weekend. I was happy to join you the other day, and thanks for joining me, my friend.
And John, let's see, to back up your point, I'm off to, just do Oregon, Michigan, Wisconsin, Alabama, Florida State, Nebraska, Iowa, and another Oregon today.
How do you even keep that all straight in your brain to even know who you're talking about and what the hell's going on?
We do our best.
Mark, you're a pro's pro, my friend. Thank you. Enjoy the football this weekend, man. Thanks.
Thanks, John.